And we're live. Let me tell people we're here because that's important. So yeah, New York, 2 thumbs up. This is an injured thumb. Well done. The Reproductive Health Act is an amazing step in the right direction. It means progress. It means, unlike Utah, evidence-based medical care in the state of New York is not regulated under the criminal code. In Utah, we still have it regulated under the criminal code, although firearm regulation is under public health and safety. I will never understand that. So I've seen a lot of misinformation on the internet about the New York abortion law, and people are very afraid of it. And I think what people are afraid of is someone who's pregnant being able to make their own medical decisions. That's really what it boils down to. And that's not okay, to be afraid of people making their own healthcare choices, their own family planning choices, their own family growth choices. I mean, I was having an intermittent conversation on Twitter the other day with someone who couldn't believe that a 14-year-old could consent to an abortion on her own, to which I responded, I can't believe a 14-year-old can consent to parenting on her own. I feel like that's a big decision as well that should require parental consent and input if you're going to require it for having an abortion. But just like in Utah, kids can have kids without parental consent, but they're not allowed to make appropriate medical decisions for themselves so that they maximize their opportunities for the future. They have to get their parents involved in order to do that. You can't have it both ways. You can't say teens who are pregnant need parental consent in order to end that pregnancy, but they don't need parental consent to continue the pregnancy. You can't have it both ways. It's either they need parental consent for all of the things or for none of the things involving their pregnancy. A teenager who's pregnant is emancipated legally during the pregnancy. So they can make decisions on if their fetus needs surgery or if they need surgery for their pregnancy, like an ectopic. They are able to consent for themselves. But after they deliver, if 2 days later they need their appendix removed, they need their parents to consent for that surgery. It boggles my mind. And I get, it's a legal snafu, really, because it's these teens are minors and they can't make legal decisions, and I get that. But if they can't make legal decisions, then they can't make legal decisions. There's all this wishy-washy red tape that they have to go through when it's regarding their pregnancy and their future. And I think that tape should just be removed, because if they have to have parental permission for a pregnancy termination and abortion, then shouldn't they have to have parental permission to continue a pregnancy and undergo serious life-threatening risks in continuing a pregnancy and giving birth? Those are just my thoughts. But anyway, that's not what the New York new law is about, the Reproductive Health Act. This is my tea. I felt very woman power today, and this is my United Way of Salt Lake Women's Leadership Council mug. So cheers to women's leadership. I encourage anyone to ask questions. I see a lot of folks on the internet saying, oh, you're okay with killing perfectly viable babies now in the third trimester. No, that is not what this Healthcare Act is about. This Reproductive Healthcare Act is about, first of all, decriminalizing evidence-based medicine. Whether you like it or not, abortions happen in the third trimester of pregnancy, and they happen in order to protect not only the fetus, but also the pregnant person. You don't have to like abortion. That's just a fact. So the pregnancy terminations, the abortions that happen in the third trimester are those pregnancies that were very wanted and now have had a horrible diagnosis, a diagnosis that means after birth, that child is not going to live. That child will suffer and die. And so by saying that third trimester abortions should not be available is to say, okay, person who's pregnant, you've been pregnant for 3 trimesters now. I'm sorry to say you have a very, very, very horrible diagnosis for your very, very wanted baby. This diagnosis means that the baby will not live once it's born. Super sorry about that. Here's the thing. In addition to this horrible diagnosis that you now have to deal with and suffer through and recover from, you're going to have to go through the process, including the risks of giving birth to this baby that won't live after you give birth. So you're going to undergo risks of giving birth, give birth, and then you're going to watch your baby die. Because that's better? No, it's not better. What's better is what New York just did in passing the Reproductive Health Care Act and allowing those who are undergoing a hugely traumatic experience with a lethal diagnosis of their very wanted pregnancy and allowing them to be safe and to minimize not only their own suffering, but the suffering of the fetus. And I'll use the words, the suffering of their unborn child, right? That's what we want to reduce. We don't want suffering. And so if you are against this Reproductive Health Care Act, you're all for suffering. You're for making people suffer. You're for making people undergo risks that they don't need to undergo and undergo trauma that they don't need to undergo. That, like, I don't know how else to put it. I honestly don't. And it baffles me that this is even a source of political controversy, that New York has put this practice into law. This is evidence-based medicine. This is humane treatment of people. So I wanted some of the folks who were arguing with me, basically the one who was arguing with me today, to join us and to ask questions, but it seems that he or she is not joining us, so that's fine. But I wanted to answer any questions that people had. I just think that it's very straightforward. Abortion is not regulated under criminal code.